here's the truth. Big changes do not come from taking big steps or making big actions. Welcome back to episode 3 in your 2025 Playbook Challenge. And today is all about habits. When I think about my clients, and I think about my clients that do really well, achieve the goals that they want and move in the direction that they really set out to, it's come from the small, consistent things that they do on a regular basis. But sometimes, especially as high achievers, we're so fixated on the big changes, the big steps. And actually, more often than not, they do more than harm than good. So I want us to think about what habits we need, because when we've got them in place, it really reduces our mental energy. It helps build momentum and over time creates the compound effect. And it ensures that we're focusing on what's important depending on the goals that we've set. And 40% of what we actually do comes from the habits and the systems that we have in place rather than the conscious decision. And I think if that's not telling, then nothing else will be. So placing emphasis on what are the habits you need to create and put into place for this year is going to be one of the most crucial things that you do. This year, I had a client who came to me really focusing on how they come across when they're presenting and speaking on stage, but also on Zoom calls and when they're presenting to their team. And one of the things they struggled with most was speaking in front of people and freezing. Now, we unpacked that, we understood where that came from, and then we started to build habits that completely rebuilt their confidence, whether they were speaking on Zoom, whether they were presenting on stage, whether it was to a large audience or a small group of people. But it didn't come from this massive transformation that we did overnight. It came from those really small steps, what I love to call those 1% marginal gains, that moved them into a position where they felt a lot more confident, they felt a lot more at ease, and I can also say that they successfully presented literally a couple of weeks ago to a room of 150 people, both online and in person, and it went incredibly well. So let's look at the 4 steps that are going to set you up for creating habits that are going to help you the most this year. Okay, no surprise that step 1 is start small. Now there's a little bit of science behind this that is super important. If you make that next step a really big step, something that you haven't done before, something that scares you, the likelihood of you doing it is slim to none. So rather than setting yourself up to fail and get it wrong, you want to make it as easy as possible for yourself. And by making it small and creating and just thinking about what that next immediate step is one way to do that. So let's use an example and say that you want to start going to the gym on a regular basis. I always use a movement example. You want to start going to the gym and you said, I'm going to start going to the gym 5 times a week. But currently you're going to the gym no times a week. That's going to feel like a very big ask, and I will almost guarantee that even if you do it in week 1 and week 2, by week 3, you're no longer going to the gym 5 times a week. So actually, let's redo this. Let's look at it from a different angle and let's think about how can we do that small, in a really small, easy step that doesn't shock your whole entire body. And it might actually be, I'm going to go to the gym this week and I'm starting with once a week. And for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to make sure that I've gone to the gym once a week. That's a really, really helpful way of how you can implement a step and start a habit in a very small incremental way. Okay, step number 2 is what I love. It is my life hack and it's called habit stacking. So whenever you want to bring in a new habit, you want to make it as easy as possible for your brain to understand and actually do it. The harder it is, the less likely your brain is to actually do the thing. So for example, at the moment, I have a goal where I want to increase my running mileage. Now, I already run 3 times a week. It's really unlikely I'm adding a 4th running session in. So what I've actually done is habit stack. And that means instead of adding another session, I'm using the existing sessions already in my diary and just making them a little bit longer. So instead of turning up at 6 for a session, I might be turning up at 5:30 to get that additional mileage in. So habit stacking is whatever the new thing is you want to introduce, put it on top of a habit that already exists. So when I'm speaking with my clients and I'm asking them to reframe their negative self-talk, I know they have to brush their teeth in the morning. That's a habit that already exists. So I usually ask them to reframe their negative self-talk while they're brushing their teeth. And it's a really great way of how I get them to stack a habit on top of an existing one. Step number 3 is track your habits. So tick it off every single day when you've done that habit. And if you do miss a day, it's actually okay. And I think a lot of us can actually give up and think, oh, I've missed a day, I can no longer do it. You're allowed to miss a day, and the science actually shows you can even miss 2 days. But get back on it on the 3rd day. Being consistent and building a habit doesn't mean that you have to do it every day. You just need to do it the majority of the time. And your 4th and final step, and the one that I think we probably forget the most when it comes to creating and building habits, is looking at your identity. So whether you want to move more, whether you want to be a more confident presenter or speaker, whether you want to be a better manager or leader at work, whether you want to feel more confident sharing your ideas, you need to embody what the identity is. And rather than saying, I'm going to try and go to the gym, you're actually going to embody this as though it's part of who you are. And that might sound like, I value my health and therefore moving my body is an important part of my day. Listen to the shift. Okay, so your challenge this week is to pick a habit, create it, but make sure that it aligns to your goal. So let's go through 3 steps to make that happen and make it as easy as possible for you and to set you up for this year. So step 1 is go back and identify one of your intentions for the year and one of your goals that you are working towards. And then I want you to think about what is the habit you need to create in order to work towards that goal. Remember, keep it small, make it easy, and stack it on a habit that already exists in your life. So once you've identified your goal and you've created the habit, when you're putting this into action, I want you to track it. How you track it is entirely up to you. Keep it simple. It might literally be a tick in your calendar, even a mark on the fridge or a tally, but make it visual so you can see it. And another beautiful element to add to this, which is going to help accountability, is share it with a friend. And also don't forget to share your wins. So it might not matter that you didn't do that habit every single day this week, but guess what? You did it 5 out of 7, and that is worth celebrating. I'm excited as you start to create the habits that are going to create the most meaning in your life. And I'm going to see you back next week for the final episode.